Hi there, it's Brian here, and I'm going to do a cooking show today. Just decided. I went to the store and I bought what was on sale, and I thought I'd make something with it. So what was on sale was chicken thighs and mushrooms. So I'm going to make something really simple with chicken thighs and mushrooms. So we're going to start with a stainless steel pan. You can use another pan if whatever kind of pan you have. I like the stainless steel ones for this kind of thing, because they work much better for what I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm going to preheat that stainless steel pan, and just so you know, I heated it up already so I don't have to wait so long. I'm trying to do this in one take so we don't have to edit. Okay, so little shot of oil. I'm using canola oil, and I'm just going to coat that pan in oil. Okay, we're going to make sure it's hot, and you do that by looking at the oil, and when it starts to do that kind of shimmering kind of a thing, you can just sort of see it now. So I'm going to put the thighs in there. I'm going to turn it up high, nice and high. That's what I'm going to do. So fairly small pan, so only got room for a couple. And we're going to brown the skin. So I already put salt and pepper on the skin, and so now that they're in there, I'm going to put salt and pepper on the underside. Okay, and we're going to let those brown. Just let them sit there, and as you can see, they're stuck a little bit, but not too bad. But when they're cooked and brown, they're going to release anyway. So I'll just leave them, let them brown. So just while it's doing that, I'll show you what I've done with the mushrooms. I cut them up fairly coarse, just a nice 1/4 inch or better slices, nice and coarse. Cut up some onions, same way, nice and coarse. I'm going to throw those in there too. I got chicken broth. You can use water. I like chicken stock because, of course, it gives more flavor, but if you don't have any, you can use water. And some butter. Finish it with butter. And that's it. It's pretty simple. So, test them to see whether they're done by seeing if they're released. If they're still stuck, they're not cooked yet. So, pull up on them, they're still stuck a bit, so they're not cooked. So I like to get them nice and brown. You can see they're just starting to get brown, but I like to get them dark brown. That'll give much more flavor if you do that. Got a pot of water on. I'm going to cook some broad noodles, and we're going to serve this. Once I've got it finished, it'll make its own sauce. I'm going to serve it over some broad noodles. So that's what that's all about. And you can use, as I was going to say, you can use a bigger pan. This one's fairly heavy on the bottom, but it is non-stick. You can use that if you want, and in a minute I'll show you another one that I have been using. Okay, so there's nice and brown. Now I'm going to throw some onions in there, and some mushrooms, and I'm going to turn this up. I hope that the noise doesn't get too noisy, but I don't want the smoke detector to go off. That just generally means the supper's ready. So I put the onions and the mushrooms in there, and A little bit of oil that I had put in, plus what's come out of the skin, I've just kind of absorbed up into those veg, trying to coat the veg with that so that when they cook, they don't dry out. Okay? So there we go. That's all in the pan, just like so. Now I'm going to bung it in the oven and let it cook for about 10 minutes. That's all we want. That's why we have it such a high temperature, 400 or better. 10 minutes is all that the meat should take to cook. So I'll show you what's going on here. So this one is one that I cooked before. There's another pan. Cook a little bit more in there. So these ones are cooked, and I'll just check those with my thermometer just to make sure. Okay, I'm going to use my non-stick tongs, and I'm going to put that right in the middle of the meat, and I'm going to look for 140 degrees or better. That's all we need. And I know you're thinking, hey, it's chicken, it's got to be 165. It's not true. 140, everything is cooked, and we're past 140 already, and even a little bit more, so we're good to go on that. 140 degrees, everything that is alive is dead, okay, at 140 degrees. As long as it's at 140 degrees for a minute or longer, you're safe. And that'll give you a far juicier meat when you do that. It might be a little, there might be a tiny bit of what you might say redness, you know, might call it underdoneness, but it's not. If it's been 140, it's good to go. So I'm going to crank that up and use an oven mitt, because that was hot. Good thing it was rubber. Okay. And I'm just going to tent that really loose, keep it in a warm place. Don't want to seal it, just don't want it to get too cold. So I'm going to heat this up. You can see the juices in there that have come out of that meat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat that up and reduce those. Here, I'll use a wooden thing here. I'll reduce those and make sure that everything in the pan that came from cooking the meat is dissolved into that. And what this also does is, if you can see, some of these onions are still not perfectly translucent. They still have a little bit of white. So it's gonna finish those and finish cooking the mushrooms at the same time. I'm not a real fan of raw mushrooms. I like mine cooked. So we're just gonna make sure everything is cooked. So the steam is coming off, it's reducing down, concentrating those flavors, as well as cooking anything that's not. And what I'm going to do is, when that is almost dry, in the sense that there's not a lot of extra liquid in there, I'm going to add a little more chicken broth and basically do the same thing 1 or 2 times to concentrate that down. If you were using water, you wouldn't want to do that, because unless it needs more cooking, because there's no flavor to concentrate. So a little bit of chicken stock. That was not even 1/4 of a cup. I'll bring that to a boil, reduce that down until those onions are translucent, and then we're going to finish it with a little bit of butter. I don't know if you can see that in there, but that liquid is reducing down, getting thick, and when it's about as thick as you want it, maybe not quite as thick as a sauce. Then you're going to take a little bit of butter. And you're going to put the butter in there. See that butter in there? And then we're going to swirl it around. That's called Monte au beurre. That's the official term. You can also stir it with your utensil here. As you see, it incorporates it right into that sauce. And as soon as it's melted and incorporated in, you've got yourself a sauce. You can turn off your heat like that and go grab a spoon, and then we're just going to give that a little taste. Wow, that's nice. Might put a little more pepper in it. Don't know what a little more pepper, tiny bit more salt. Stir that in. Okay, so you've got your sauce, mushrooms, onions, you've got your meat there, and here's what I'm going to do really fast is I'm going to heat up some noodles. Got my water hot there. I'm going to heat up some noodles. Put those noodles in here. Okay. I'm going to take a chicken thigh. And then I'm going to take some of this. And we're just going to put some mushrooms, onions, and the sauce right on top of that chicken thigh like that, and the noodles. And there you go. It didn't take long. 10 minutes in the oven is all it took. And a few minutes on top of the stove. Easy to finish, minimal ingredients. There you have chicken, mushrooms, and onions on broad noodles.